So welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories set of interviews where we discuss with local business leaders, their backgrounds and successes and challenges and what drives them forwards. So today we have with us Richard Coulthard of Ison Harrison Solicitors with 16 branches and 200 people across Yorkshire. So Richard, thanks for coming on. And firstly, if you just introduce yourself and what you do and how you help your clients, that would be great.
Thank you very much for that, Chris. Yeah, so it's Richard Coulthard of Ison Harrison Solicitors. I'm one of the partners. I head up the commercial services work within the firm. We are a full service law firm, 16 offices around Yorkshire. We're one of the largest in the region. And we literally do every type of legal work you could possibly think of, from conveyancing, family, wills, probate, right through to much more complicated commercial services, which is really where I come in. So my advice work is centered around typically local SME businesses and helping them on matters such as growth, succession planning, contracts, disputes, and the full sort of suite of support services associated with legal aspects of business. And I suppose we try and differentiate ourselves a little bit by, looking at providing much more proactive suite of services, really tailored towards helping a business owner get to where they want to be.
Great. It's interesting, isn't it? I find growth. Obviously, we work with helping clients grow too, and growth comes with its own set of challenges. It's obviously a lack of growth has a whole other bunch of challenges, but growth in itself comes with challenges that need addressing. And funnily enough, I'm working with a client at the moment on succession planning, and again, there's both the legal, the personal, the emotional side of how we pass on. So that's great. Could you tell me a little bit specifically about your background and how you got into this particular business and what you love about it?
Yeah, I mean, so I've been practicing in law now pretty much 20 years, really. I was a director at another firm before Ison Harrison. Ison Harrison, I started 3 years ago now. They were looking for someone to come in and help drive forward their commercial services within the firm, and that fit very much with my skill set. I think what's great about the firm is it's so personable, and that's consistently the feedback that we get from both clients and employees. And what they love about the firm is we're a big company, but it doesn't necessarily feel like that. It doesn't feel like that for clients. It doesn't feel like that internally. We don't have loads of red tape internally, if that makes sense. Which sometimes you can get with larger organizations. It's literally, you can knock directly on the owner's doors and go, right, what are we doing about this? And that's a great atmosphere to be in. It's very supportive, very sort of collegiate, with a very, I think one of the great things that is one of the reasons perhaps we've been so successful is all of the employees have a huge amount of visibility about what's going on in the business and the direction of the business. What's the plan? What's the, our business plan, our 5-year business plan is published internally and externally. There's no secrets there. We do a business briefing every February where we close the office for half a day and all of the staff can see the exact figures of what's going on in the business, how much profit, how much each department's done, how much branch is done, success stories. That motivates people, having that level of engagement.
100%. I mean, I'm very impressed. I think, especially talk about, publishing your business plan, both internally, which is wonderful, and externally. So be very clear, very transparent. And yeah, I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day about, I think there's a great phrase about having, one of the keys to having a great team is having the right people on the bus, and the right people on the right seats on the bus. But ultimately, our job as leaders and owners of a business is, on the front of the bus, it's got destination. And if we're not clear on that, how can anyone get on our bus? How can anyone get on our bus and choose to want to go on our journey with us if we don't know and we're not telling them where we're going? So publishing that on a regular basis and being open with your team it must be wonderful. And we mentioned beforehand, and it's probably a good point to bring this up about transparency and employee engagement. You were talking about the way you've developed an employee-owner trust. Perhaps you could just maybe bring that a little bit into this whole idea of engaging your employees.
So one of the processes that we've been on, we've now just completed actually, and we're the first law firm in the country that's now 100% employee owned. So all of the employees have a direct stake in the business. They will get a share in the profits, and this has been a fairly lengthy process to go through. We've got regulatory issues and things like that, but that's something that the employees have been aware of for certainly the last 6 or so months. And that's seen a huge increase in engagement and, if I'm honest, growth within the business, because they're building for something. It's not just a pyramid scheme where the employees are working for the benefit of a small minority. Everyone is working for their own direct benefit. They will all share in the profits of the business going forward, and it's a structure that we advise businesses on actually, but it's a structure that is becoming more popular. There are tax benefits for both employees and owners. There's lots and lots of benefits, still relatively unknown. As we're the first law firm in the country to be 100% owned by the employees, so it's really, really helped engage with staff engagement.
It was incredible. First firm in the UK, and I'm just sort of reflecting. I have been involved with the legal profession for quite a long time in what I do, and the changes you guys have seen over the last sort of 15 years to even 20 years has been quite incredible from the in the marketplace and these sorts of changes. I would think 20-30 years ago there'd always be, if you'd have told somebody 20-30 years ago this is where we'd be now, they would absolutely be quite shocked.
Absolutely. I think legal services have changed a lot and will continue to change a lot in much the same way as maybe accountancy has changed a lot. So and so how we deliver legal services, how legal services are funded, it is changed. There's a lot more options potentially available depending on what you're looking for. And I think maybe historically lawyers perhaps have been a little bit guilty of not necessarily running law firms as businesses. And what I mean by that, it's been very much historically, right? We charge this per hour, and it's just going to be how long's a piece of string as to how much it's going to cost. And I think law firms, for various reasons, are now getting much more creative as to how you can structure fees and engage with clients and the type of services that you can offer. So, and that's also the benefit of the business community and the individuals and public across the country.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. As I say, I've worked with a few law firms, and I guess the classic challenge also we have as leaders and growers of our business is the model is we trade in time for money. We earn per hour, and therefore at certain times it feels more sensible to earn money by doing work than it does to work on growth of the business. And it is, I would think, in what you do, it can be or has been maybe a constant challenge of, do I do client work and make money for the firm, or do I actually do work that's actually not going to pay me right now, but probably will pay me way more if I focus on growth and development of my business? And I can see that. I'm interested to know the sorts of challenges, as we were talking slightly earlier about growth comes with its own challenges. What sort of issues and challenges have you overcome over the last few years?
Yeah, I think recruitment has not been without its problems over the last, really sort of since COVID. I think we've had difficulties just because of a reluctance of a lot of people to move jobs in an uncertain market. So that's certainly had its difficulties. And it's just been a time investment, really. It's just about finding the right people. So that certainly has been a challenge. I think a constant challenge for law firms, not just ourselves, is is how do you differentiate yourself? You know, we're all, broadly speaking, doing very similar types of work. There's only so many different ways you can talk about a contract or a will or buying or selling a property, and so differentiating yourself in a what is a quite congested market can have its difficulties. And I think, from my experience, personality is a big part of it. It's actually having individual relationships, it's having a reputation, it's building long-lasting relationships with people, and that's certainly something that we've seen. It's been very successful. You know, statistically, I think over 60% of our incoming work month in, month out is repeat business or referrals from existing clients. You know, but that's entirely based on service. So, but yeah, there's one of the challenges we face is we do have 16 offices. Managing that collectively is not without its challenges. And you know, and you've already mentioned as well, I think for some of us as managers, such as myself, it's the constant sort of quandary of spending time on client work and then time spent on the business, and, you know, managing people and marketing and strategy, and actually getting that balance right is not always easy.
No, it definitely isn't, and obviously typically what I've seen is the more senior you are, the more capable you are, the higher the fees. Therefore, the more revenue you can generate by your own actions, and that it's almost a challenging loop, which I can totally understand. So what would you say your biggest learnings from business over the last few years? What have you learned? And there have been those sort of, often we call them blinding flashes of the obvious. Oh, I get that now. What would be some of those things?
Well, right. So I think, firstly, you know, business is about teams. You know, you can't build a business on a single person, regardless of how good that person is. There's a limit as to how much time or what have you that they've got. So you need to have the right structure in place, the right management structure, the right people doing the right things. I think the other thing is understanding and accepting your weaknesses, individually, and addressing them. You know, one person can't be fantastic at everything. It's about putting the right people doing the right type of work that fits with their strengths, and actually holding your hand up and go, you know what, I'm not great at admin or marketing or whatever it is that they're not great at. But make sure that you're filling people with their particular strengths. I think that's it. But I think the biggest is learning for me is definitely your team structure, your team morale is really paramount. You know, when I recruit people, more often than not, I will recruit them based on personality. Actually, are they a right fit? Because I can give them the experience and the training they need to do the job. I can't make them the right person for the team.
Bang on. 100% agree. We've got a saying here, actually, coaches, that most traditional recruitment is we recruit on experience, but sack on attitude. So how about with a base level of experience and qualification, totally understand that, but above a base, how about focusing primarily on attitude and behaviours? And, you know, getting the right fit from a personality point of view, behavioural point of view, and vision and values point of view is absolutely key. So I think it's bang on, because then you get people that love working with us specifically. They want to be part of our team. They want to engage with our values and our vision, and therefore they'll stay longer and work harder, and that's good for everybody, especially if they own a part of the company. So that's pretty cool. And you know, it's interesting you said something there, and this idea again, and I think for me it's definitely a fallacy. The idea that we have to focus on strengthening our weaknesses rather than playing to our strengths. And you know, Brian Tracy talks about the best organizations are ones where most people spend most of their time doing the three things they're really good at and they really love. and the rest. And yeah, there's sometimes, obviously, there's some stuff we don't particularly enjoy, but let's minimize it. Let's work on the stuff that we really love, because then we sort of know we're going to work harder and have more fun and therefore be more effective. And yet, as I say, historically, the idea of sorting out our weaknesses has been a big focus. But so interesting learnings, interesting. What would you say, or who or what would be sort of some of your key influences in your career?
Oh, that's a difficult one, in part because there's probably been so many. Right. There's previous firm, a couple of firms ago, I remember, someone who at the time was much more senior than me. I was still relatively early in my career, I suppose. They kind of took me under the wing and actually probably gave me a better understanding of business, I suppose. As lawyers, you're trained to, right, this is the law, this is the service that you need to provide, this is the answer to the legal questions, this is how to draft this document or argue this dispute or what have you. What I think as lawyers we're not given generally as much training around, I suppose, as actually maybe understanding business finance, if that makes sense. And actually, yes, we charge £200 an hour or £250 an hour, whatever. That's not profit. You've got not just your own salary.
Absolutely.
There's a huge cost of regulation, professional indemnity insurance, and all the rest of it. And really getting a handle on those figures and understanding how a law firm operates from a business side of things was something that was hugely beneficial for me, actually. And it is something that actually I've then been able to use when I then advise clients. Having that understanding of business finance and all the rest of it is something that I found very, very useful. I think, similarly, sort of, I've done various sort of training and what have you with different accountants and tax advisors. You pull knowledge from different places, and you sort of, I've listened to sort of various TED Talks and things like that. I think I certainly for me personally, I'm someone I like learning. I like coming across new things and adopting new things and new strategies. So I think there's been a lot of different influences in my career. It would be difficult to point to say one person that's who got me to where I was.
Well, it's great to how open you are to learning, and that's what's great. Is the idea? Let's get it from everywhere, because we can learn so much just from living life, just from observing things in different circumstances. With clients I work with, so when we're talking maybe about marketing, we get something like 14,000 marketing messages every day. Therefore, being open to them and listening to them and seeing what's working is quite useful. We don't need to be marketing experts to be more open and understanding of things like marketing, etc. So I think being open is really key. So in terms of learning, what would you say you've learned about yourself over your career? What are some of the things that stand out about you personally?
I think one of them is I'm a people person, which I think if you'd asked me 10 years ago, I'd probably go, I'm not a people person, but it's probably not where I'd see a strength. But something that I enjoy and something sort of over my career I've increasingly spent time doing is sort of business development and client relations or professional contact relations, and just having that network. I think that's something that it maybe wasn't something I necessarily saw as a strength in myself, but I've had enough people point out, actually, you that's something that you do gravitate towards, and it's something that I enjoy. So I think that's something that I've learned about myself. But I think going back to sort of weaknesses as well, I think I've sort of come to accept that I'm actually there's just certain things that either because it's just something that doesn't interest me, or it's just like things like spreadsheets and stuff like that. It's not necessarily something that comes naturally to me. And I think maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, I might have been a bit more defensive about that. So no, I've got to be fantastic at everything. And now you become a bit more accepting and kind of go, actually, you know what? That's not my bag.
Yep.
That's fine. And I think that's, I don't know if that's just it comes from experience, maturity. I don't know. I think it's just something that you actually, it's okay to accept that you're not going to be brilliant at everything.
Brilliant. 100%. And the great thing is, for everything we don't like, there's someone else that does. So there's somebody else out there just can't wait to do a spreadsheet. That's exactly what we want. So why, you know, I think that's bang on. And yeah, I think the change comes from lots of different ways, doesn't it? But it's sort of nuts to think that we should be good at everything, because most of us don't think everyone else is or should be. Therefore, it's a bit of an invalid standard to hold ourselves to, when we wouldn't necessarily expect everyone else around us to be perfect. But there we go. Yeah, as you say, there's lots of different reasons. Have you picked up, I've just always asked people over our learning period, have you picked up any favourite quotes or sayings that you rely on or use a lot?
I go back to the one from Tony Robbins, which is successful people have momentum. The more that they succeed, the more they want to succeed, the more they find a way to succeed. That might not be word for word, but that's essentially the theme, which is, you know, to be successful, to maintain being successful, you've got to continue pushing forward. You've got to continue with your momentum.
Bang on. Yeah, that's great. No, it creates its own positive feedback, doesn't it? Because success is something that we enjoy and therefore want to do more of that. I love that. Thank you. So, just, I guess, I mean, the history of what you've achieved there is incredible. And looking forward now, what are the sort of key challenges you see as you continue to grow, which I'm sure you will do?
Yeah, I think, I mean, we've opened 4 new offices in the last 3 years, and we will continue to open up more offices. It's part of our longer term strategy.
Right.
But that will come with challenges as we break into markets that potentially we are less well known in. You know, we are, you know, very well known in Yorkshire, for instance.
Yep.
If we were to press, I don't know, towards maybe Lancashire or further up north or further down south, that is going to involve further time and effort to break into those markets, I suppose. And I suppose it's also about finding the right people. You know, have we got people within our existing workforce who have the right sort of connections and attitude to break into those markets? I don't know. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. Then you've got to recruit the right people. So that's going to be a challenge. It's an aspiration. I mean, we're always in the market to look at acquisition of other law firms. You know, we've you know, that's always quite exciting. It's, you know, there's always risk there as well. So that's certainly one of our aspirations. I think we've got ideas as to where we want to be sort of in the next 5 years, next 10 years in terms of turnover and officers and staff number and things like that. So I suppose that the underlying theme behind all of that is growth. You've got to keep pushing forward. And I think that's it's very important, particularly for law firms, but I think it's probably very similar for a lot of professional services, which is you've got to keep pushing forward to be able to give your staff the opportunities to grow. Because if you're not, they're going to move somewhere where they could get that growth.
Yeah, so, bang on. I guess goes back to your Tony Robbins quote, isn't it? It's about creating momentum and keeping it up. And I think it's Michael Gerber talks about the fact that business is like a tree. It's either growing or dying. It can't really stay the same. So plateauing and scheduling and saying, well, I think that's about enough, just doesn't make any sense. So wonderful. So I guess as a business owner and a commercial lawyer, what would you say to anyone that was thinking of going into business right now?
I think you need to have a clear plan about what you're going to do. And I think you need to surround yourself with the right type of advisors for you. Don't be afraid to take advice. I appreciate there may be a cost to that. But the most successful businesses that we deal with or that we know surround themselves with a really strong power team. So that, would be legal support, accountancy support, business advisor, IFA, they've got really strong almost extended boards of professional advisors that they surround themselves with, and they get the right advice, and they're not afraid to take advice. And I think I appreciate that, you know, early in your business life, there may be financial constraints as to how much you can deal with that, and I'm fully accepting of that. But don't make the mistake of thinking that you know everything. You know, there are insights and knowledge that is out there that can help you within your business, and you know, seek that out. Brilliant,
100%. So totally concur with that. And finally, just a sort of a bit of a reflective question for you specifically. What would be the advice you'd give to an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and give yourself a little bit of advice?
You could have given me some forewarning of this question, I think. I think it would be just about surrounding yourselves with the right type of people, getting the right sort of connections, externally, you know, with other professionals, you know, and you know, because the sooner you start on that journey, you know, in terms of building your networks, building that knowledge base, the sooner you'd probably get to the sort of success that maybe you want, if that makes sense. So
yeah.
You know, it's certainly, I think, as you know, as lawyers, but you know, I think that there are many people who probably fall into this this category. Is you can't underestimate the power of having a good contact sphere, and just having the right sort of people to either bring into your business or refer business out to, or just have a chat to about a particular issue and things like that. You know, there's a lot of power in that.
Yeah, sound advice at any point in time. But thank you so much. Well, Richard, that's been really fascinating, and thank you so much for sharing a lot about yourself and about Ison Harrison and the successes you're having, and what we put that down to. And is there any last words that you'd like to share with us before we close off the interview?
I suppose, you know, if there are any business owners who have been listening to this, who you know, want to have a sort of free chat about what's going on in their business and how we might be able to support it, happy to have a conversation. And you know, I mentioned earlier about, you know, we support businesses and growth. That might be a little bit unusual from a legal state, but actually there's lots of legal issues that come up from that, and things that people may not be aware of. So, you know, more than happy to have an initial sort of free chat, coffee with someone, and see what we might be able to help them with.
Brilliant, thank you. And I think it's really important, as you said, let's inform ourselves. The information is often, you know, reasonably freely available from people like yourselves and ourselves, and gratefully given initially, just to help people understand what they may need to do at the right times to give them the best outcomes. If we don't know, then we can't make the sensible and sound decisions that we often need to make. So seeking advice and seeking help is 100%. So again, thank you so much, Richard. It's been really fascinating, and I look forward to seeing the growth of Ison Harrison, especially with the new changes with the employee ownership. I think that's going to be fascinating to follow you guys over the next few years.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Richard.